Yo, what's going on, guys? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. Looking at this Eagles team going into the Super Bowl, trying to analyze whether they'll win the Super Bowl or not, looking at this team as a whole, they really remind me of that 2017-2018 Eagles team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. I'm seeing a common narrative with people picking the Chiefs to win, which, by the way, very understandable if you think the Chiefs are going to win. But a reason why people are thinking the Chiefs are going to win is an interesting reasoning, which is they're significantly more experienced. Now, obviously, the Chiefs have gone to 6 straight AFC championships. This is going to be their 3rd Super Bowl. But looking at this Eagles team, they have some Super Bowl members on this team as well. They have guys like Brandon Graham, Jason Kelce, who really added to this team. And when I started to think of why that Eagles team won the Super Bowl, well, inside of that Super Bowl in 2018, a significant reason was role players stepping up. And which role player on the Eagles stepped up more than Corey Clement? So Corey Clement is a guy who all year that season, as the 3rd string running back, backup running back, he had 10 catches for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. In that Super Bowl, he had 4 catches for 100 yards. He was the leading receiver for the Eagles. Their lead receiver was their backup running back, who only had 23 more receiving yards all season than he did in that one game. Talk about something you can remember for the rest of your life if you're Corey Clement. Absolutely amazing moment. He also had 1 touchdown in this game, one of the most memorable touchdowns in Super Bowl history, just for me personally, because of how incredible of a play it was. A running back in the back of the end zone on a toe tap catch, just beautiful. So it had me thinking, if the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, obviously you need key guys like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Goddard. You need those guys to step up. Miles Sanders, obviously Jalen Hurts. But what role player on the Eagles is going to step up? So I thought of 3 names that could potentially step up as a role player for the Eagles, then one fun kind of wild card at the end of this video for you guys. So the first name I thought of was Boston Scott. Could Boston Scott end up having this huge game out of the backfield as the backup running back? Well, all season long, he had 217 rushing yards. He had 15 receiving yards. So only having 15 receiving yards, he's not really a threat to catch the ball out of the backfield. And I feel as though they're going to want more of a dynamic option come Super Bowl day. So I think a guy who's going to get even more touches than a Boston Scott, who has even more of a potential to step up than Boston Scott, is Kenneth Gainwell. So Kenneth Gainwell had 169 receiving yards all season, and he had 240 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. Kenneth Gainwell, he's known as kind of the giant killer. He always does really good against the Giants, but Kenneth Gainwell's a guy who I really can see having a Corey Clement-esque Super Bowl, a guy who catches his first pass, goes 20 yards, and Nick Sirianni says, you know what? Kenneth looks really good today. He looked good in warm-ups. Let's give him another touch. Gets another touch, 15-yard gain, 20-yard gain. Next thing you know, the kid has 100 yards, just like Corey Clement. So Kenneth Gainwell, potentially a guy who can have a Corey Clement-esque game. The third guy I'm thinking of is Quez Watkins, of course. When I looked up Quez Watkins to look up the statistics for this video, man, is he getting disrespected. The top 2 news stories on Quez Watkins today is that his over-under for receiving yards in the Super Bowl for the Vegas odds are 1.5, and that all of America is hammering under 1.5 catches for Quez Watkins. Now, I know he hasn't had a significant role in the offense as of late, but I still really believe in Quez Watkins' skill set. If A.J. Brown is getting locked up, if Devonta Smith is getting locked up, and just getting a lot of attention geared towards them, which I don't think they're going to get locked up, but I would imagine that they're going to have significant attention on them. I think Quez Watkins is a guy fast. I know some Eagles fans aren't the biggest Quez Watkins fans. He's had some drops here and there throughout his career, here and there throughout this season. But all in all, Quez Watkins, a guy with 354 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. I can see him, having 1-2 touchdowns in this game, having 100 yards, stepping up as that role player. And then the last guy I wanted to get into, this was kind of a fun coincidental thing. So as I mentioned earlier in this video, Corey Clement had 123 receiving yards all season before that 100-yard game. Who else had 123 receiving yards exactly for the Eagles this year? Their backup tight end, Jack Stoll. So Jack Stoll is a guy who really hasn't even had a catch in the last 5, 6, 7 games. We haven't even heard Jack Stoll's name be called outside of a nice run block or two. I think Jack Stoll is a guy who potentially, again, a guy who barely has any career yards, a guy who has 0 touchdowns in his entire career. I mean, I don't even know what would be more fitting than for Jack Stoll for his career to have 0 catches for touchdowns and have a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. That would be a really fun thing for Jack Stoll to look back on in his life. So look for a guy like Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Quez Watkins, or Jack Stoll to step up big for the Eagles come Super Bowl Sunday.